Let those who have an ear hear. Welcome. Come on in and do share. Welcome into our love walk space. Welcome into this space. Blessings, Destiny. Welcome into this space. Come on in and do share. Tonight we are praying for clarity of the path that you are on. We are praying for clarity for the path that you are on or the path that you are intended to go. Come on in and do share. Blessings, blessings, LaMonica. We are praying for your path tonight. We are praying for clarity of your path. For many, this is a very confusing place because you have the teachings that you were raised with or that you learned when you were running away from some things in life before. Many of us got into the places that we were either because we were made to go. We enjoyed it for a season, whatever we were in, but a lot of people found a particular path for a particular season of life when they were trying to escape something horrible, trying to escape behaviors that no longer serve them. And so now you're in another season where you must discover what serves you, and what place can you live by faith, and what place can you grow, and what place are you watered. See, in your life, somebody may have planted a seed, and then you were watered in another place. God will give the increase when you are in a place where you can dedicate yourself to a practice. And so many of you are looking for a practice. You're looking for something in what you already know that can help you to be free. You're just like, there's a scripture that says, restore for me the joy of my salvation. Blessings, LaMonica, over your seed. I will indeed pray for you and release the word of the Lord. But this restore to me the joy of my salvation. And what salvation really is about is not about just the afterlife, but it is about adopting or putting yourself in a mindset or in a place where you can accept the rescue. And when we understand how to let this mind be in us, which was also in Christ Joshua, we understand that it is the nature, it is the way, and that mind, that same mind, is what we embody, and it's how we begin to govern our lives. And so we are saved from different circumstances, whether and this is something that God gave to me, sometimes the salvation is not about trying to escape something, except for maybe death of the physical body because you can't control the way you eat. And for me, it's like, okay, that's a real focus. Because when you practice trying to be the best person you could be in your heart, when you heal all of those things so you don't um, act out on a regular basis, that's a practice in and of itself. But that's not all there is. What about the things that we do with our bodies or the things that we allow in other ways. Now, this is not about being forced, though. With the Christ mind, you begin to develop. You are now a new creature. So your thoughts change. You want your highest and your best good. And some people think that because you believe in Jesus, believe in the walk that he had, or believe in his nature, that automatically makes you a Christian or belong to the Christian religion. But there are Muslims. The Muslim nation believes in Jesus. They just see him from a different perspective, which rightfully so. It makes perfect sense because they were introduced to him from a different perspective. There are other countries and places where he visited, and so they would be familiar with him in the way that they understand him. But all in all, the object is the same mind that was in Jesus, right? The same mind that he adopted, the same mind that he learned as he traveled and studied, as he sat in the synagogues. And so you being in a place where you can study and learn and begin to apply certain things to your world, and you know what your mission or your assignment is, you have your path and you're living it, you're working it. That's where you find the greatest joy. It's where you find where you fit. And for a season, it may have been in one location and you gained everything that you needed to gain. The seeds were planted. But now many of you are looking to be watered. Blessings, Kamisha. You're looking to be watered. And so because you are looking to be watered, now you're just thirsty, right? Isn't that what happens when you're thirsty? All you want is something to wet your throat. All you want is something to quench that thirst. There was a time, oh God, he's so flowing right now. But there was that moment where Jesus was standing with the woman at the well, and he did share some information with her to let him know that he was a prophet, that he could see. And they were having a conversation and dialogue. And he said, if you knew who I was, I'm going to talk tonight without crying. If you knew who I was, then you would ask me to give you living water. And she was talking about the physical. Again, sight is something else. It's something else. You see what you see. You talk based on what you see. And she began to speak about the well. And, how am I going to draw what? When he asked for water, how am I going to draw water out? You don't have this. And, and Jesus had to say, like, there's something more. Everything that I do is strategic. I sat on this well and told them to go into the marketplace. I did all of those things just so I can meet you here. And he didn't say all that. I'm just paraphrasing right now, but this is the nature of the Christ mind, because we're only here to help usher other people into their healing place. But they have to be willing to go into that healing place. But while he's talking to her, he then says, and she says, so are you greater than our father Jacob, who built this well? And he began to continue the conversation. And then she talked about, Jerusalem and the mountains, all that. He's saying there will be a day where you do not worship in Jerusalem, where you do not worship in the mountains, because they that worship God must do so in spirit and in truth. God is spirit, and he seeks for those who worship him as such. In other words, this is not about denomination, about faith, about the titles that we give ourselves. This is literally about adopting the mind and understanding that we live to worship God in the spirit. When we come into the understanding that we are spirit first, then you go into that space. This is the object of the Christ mind. You go into that space where there is oneness with the great I am, where you understand that God is all things at the same time, all the time. There is no separation. He can't be omnipresent and not be with us at all times, not be in us, through us, as us. So he began to understand this. He began to live in that way. He began to serve, not trying to be promoted in the way that people thought that he should be, just serving, giving. But he told the disciples at one time, hey, go out 2 by 2. When you go out, take nothing with you, because where you go, you should be sustained. So he talked about the fairness of what he was doing and what they were doing. They had a treasury when they were walking around, when they were going from place to place for the everyday things of life. But the spirit worship, worshiping God in your spirit, worshiping God in spirit and in truth. That's why we heal our soul. That's the unique expression of us, so that we can get back to the original place, which is spirit first. And then when you begin to put yourself in that place where you're only seeking to worship God in spirit and in truth, then your thought process may have nothing to do with religion whatsoever. Religion has its place. Hear me. If you have a practice that you are a part of and it works for you and it's helping you to gain and understand and all of that, by all means, you can find God in whatever it is. But when you finally get to the place where the seed is planted, but you don't feel like you're watered and you're thirsty, then it's time to look to God. It's time to go within yourself, for the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And you go within that place and you begin to ask God to show me the way for me. What is it that you need for me to understand, for me to know? That's another level of things, because before you were just trying to get out of the storm, get out of the bad things, get out of the bad mindset, or somebody scared you into the room. If you don't do this and you don't do that, then you're gonna get punished. And so you ran into that space because you felt like I'm going to be punished if I don't. But without faith, it's impossible to please the great I am, because faith is knowing. And so if you're going into something simply because you've been scared into it, or you've been forced into it, or any of those things, and there may have been seeds planted, of course, but you're at the point now where you're like, something just doesn't make sense to me, and I need to be able to put my hand on that. I need to be able to. And so now God takes you to the place where he helps you to understand that you should indeed pursue the same mindset as Jesus. This is not about worshiping anything on the earth. This is about worshiping God with your spirit. And so you're thirsty right now because your spirit is longing for this next thing. And if you're listening to me tonight, then the next thing for you is more than likely just simply the path of the Christ mind, which is the path of love, which is the path of servitude, which is the path of bearing the burdens of one another as you heal what is going on within yourself. And so you're up for this healing. And this is not a selfish place. It's a selfless place. Because when you go in to heal, it ain't nothing selfish about that. It may sound like it's selfish. Oh, you got to steal away. You got to be by yourself. You got to like cut off everything and everybody. No, this is simply about you going within. For the kingdom of God is within you. That's where it is. And so you begin to go within, and you begin to ask questions. And if you were taught before that you shouldn't ask questions, you can't question God, then that's a myth. It's not true. It's not true. You will not know unless you ask questions. Ask, seek, knock, and the door shall be open unto you. It's okay for you to want to know. But the question will be, are you at the point where you're ready to know? Lead me and guide me into all truth, Holy Spirit. Jesus says when the Spirit of truth comes, it shall lead you and guide you into all truth. If you have the embodiment of the Holy Spirit, and that's not something spooky, it's not something that you have to go. As a matter of fact, I believe that the Holy Spirit is the Christ mind and word. And it leads you and guides you into all truth. And you begin to go within yourself and you look for guidance. And you sit with yourself and you say, you know what? That used to make sense to me, but it doesn't make sense to me now. God, can you reveal to me the truth of this matter? Lead me and guide me into this truth. Help me to navigate this space. The healing is not selfish, because that healing requires for you to be vulnerable, to be naked, unashamed, to go back to places that really broke you, hurt you, places of trauma, places of pain, to face it, but not to face it in order to blame anybody else, but to face it in order to find out what's going on in your heart, so that every action that you perform is from a pure place, from a place of love, and not from a place of envy or jealousy or hatred or resentment. See, we get mad about a lot of things in this life and in this earth because we are attached to many things. But when you begin to walk with the Spirit of God and the Christ mind, And you're not detached from everything, but the attachments is different. You understand the attachments to be what they need to be. In other words, if I need to be something in your life, I'll be that in your life, but not to the point where I should be worshiped by you, not at the point where I should be discarded either, but not worshiped. Just understood. This is the water for me so that God can give the increase. And it's a selfless act when you know that you are becoming whole so that you can literally contribute to the greater whole. Paying it forward, as some would say. God has done a work within my heart. I've yielded my heart to God. And that means God is going to deal with you about what it is that you need for your life. Listen, it's not one size fit all. Somebody else may not be able to do this thing over here because they get addicted to it. But that same thing is okay for you because it's not something that does that for you. But whatever your addiction is, somebody else might be able to do it. And you're looking at them like, oh my God, they shouldn't do that because nope, this is personal. Blessings, destiny for your seed. This is personal. So you're in this place right now and you're feeling like you're lost and you're feeling like, oh my God, this is too much. It's too heavy. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to think. I don't know what to feel because you need to be watered. And sometimes, God help me today. Sometimes it's just a season to be watered. The overwhelm of life can make us totally distracted from the purpose and the plan for our lives, our assignments in this life because we're still trying to prove a point. We're doing things because we want to prove a point to other people. We're doing things because we want to have this certain appearance. We're doing things because God is saying to you tonight, if you want your path, if you want to be certain of your path, I need you to heal it all within yourself so that your path is clear. Sometimes we're chasing things because we're trying to prove something to our grandparents or to our parents or to our teacher, a teacher that said something about you long ago. And some of that can be fuel. There are people who have done some great things because they were, challenged and talked about. But that's not for you. You don't need to drive yourself out of trying to prove a point. I don't know who this is for. You don't need to drive yourself trying to prove a point. That's why you're totally miserable in some of the things that you're doing, just trying to survive. You want it to look a certain type of way. You feel like it needs to look like theirs look because that's the wave, that's the new thing, that's the trend, that's the this and that and the other. And I know God deals with me so much about what he originally told me to do. And I remember going through the motions trying to figure out how to make it all fit, how to make it look this way, and how to make it look that way, and how to do it this way, and how to do it that way. And he always brings me back to Christ Joshua and his walk and how he discipled and how he spent hours upon hours and days upon days, sometimes teaching and walking and teaching so much so that he would remember when he had to get the fish and the bread and the loaves. He's like, listen, they've been with us all day. They've been walking. They've been traveling. Let's feed them. They're here. They're so thirsty. Well, let's give them food, sustenance for their bodies so that they can remain. He was so busy about his father's business, so busy. Listen to me. When you're about the father's business or the great I am's business, then that's the only thing that fuels you. And you can't do it differently. Because if you do it differently, then you're out of position and out of place. No longer can you try to do what you're doing to prove a point to anybody. It's time for you to find your path, walk it out, live it out, and not be ashamed. And those who need to follow will follow. And if your assignment is not for you to have a fellowship, it's for you to go into business for yourself and to serve the community in some way, or to open a nonprofit, or to open a ministry, do whatever it is you need to do, be okay. Because those who need to find you will find you. Or those who you need to find, you will find. But right now, you're just trying to get on your path and walk it out. And the hard part about it, and I know this is one of the hardest things it is to be able to do, is that when seasons shift and seasons change in your life, and you're afraid to say, this is where I am in this season, then it ends up causing you more harm than good. Do you need to be watered? Because listen, you got so many seeds inside of you right now that you're literally overflowing with them, and there's no room for anything to be watered. If it's watered, it'll be stuff piled on top of stuff, on top of stuff, on top of stuff, on top of stuff, and you'll be sorting out all of this stuff. And God says, no, I need you to pause for a minute, and I need you to hear me. They that worship me must do so in spirit and in truth, because I don't need your superficial actions. When you serve me in spirit and in truth, you will go the way that I'm telling you to go, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else. And yes, that's difficult. And yes, that's difficult because you got attachments, you got your kids, you got you got your peoples, and they're all like, oh, it should be this, and you got to do this, and that. I mean, you trying to do that, and I said that don't make no sense, and you really need to do, and in your heart, you like, well, maybe there's something I'm not doing right. Most of the time, people don't mean you no harm whatsoever. They just trying to tell you what they think is right, and you done it to somebody. Because you found the path where you were being seeded into, where you felt like you found this wonderful thing, and you want to give it to everybody that come past you, but it's always been for you. It's always been for you first to partake in. And if it doesn't work for the next person, it doesn't work for the next person. But love them enough to be okay with the fact that it doesn't work for them. I know you're concerned about whether you should fully give yourself to this space or not. I went through the fear myself, knowing that I would be talked about and ridiculed and called names, knowing that those that are on my team would be hearing chatter and information from other people saying, God, you know how many times I done gone through this, right? You know, this is not something that I really want to do. And he says, listen, anytime I put anybody in that space, it's so that they can be either seeded or watered. And whatever they gain from that, they gain from that. And if the words or the chatter of other people can causes them to go in another direction, then maybe that's the direction they need to go. But you must worship me in spirit and truth, because I don't understand anything else. And of course, God understands everything, but check the way I'm saying it. It's faith that pleases me. Without faith, it's impossible to please me. And I said this before, but we're talking about the great I am. How is anything impossible? And he's saying, I'm giving you to understand it. See, it's not impossible for me to understand why you did it. It's not impossible for me to understand what the root cause is or any of that, because I made every condition. But it's impossible for you to please me without faith, because you must believe that I am. You must believe that I'm a rewarder of those who diligently seek me. How you seek me? In spirit and truth. Tap in within yourself. Tap in within yourself. Ah. I've been so heavy for days, y'all. I've been so heavy for days, and I'm trying to trek through this thing. Whatever need to be heard, let it be. Let it be. Flow through me, oh God. Help me to regulate every emotion that is happening on the inside of me, that I may be present to do your will. Shifts are not easy. But here's where it comes in, where God says, if my people who are called by my name, right? And we know there's like billions, probably millions and billions of names for God because everybody has their own description. But love is the name I know. I am is the name I know. And if we're called by that name, we're called by love, if we're called by I am, and we really begin to understand what that means, you know that God has got you no matter what. Moses had to shift from the palace to being a deliverer. But God set it up to where he could even be in the palace to learn the ways so that he could present himself before Pharaoh and give his statement. Or so Aaron can do it for him, but so he can present himself because he knew the way of the palace. He had favor, so he was able to become before him. God help me today. But what does it mean to have to stand before your family? Because yes, they were family at this point. He was raised there. They were family. Family not always blood, but they were family. So imagine having to look your family in the face. And this goes for blood family too, yes. Any type of family that you imagine having to look your family in the face and say, I got a message from God and he says do this. Of course they're gonna look at you like you crazy, right? Like God said, let my people go. Yo, God said what? Yeah, I don't think that was the message of the day. And you're looking at that person and you're saying, just get it. I finally understand my purpose growing up with you. I really don't know why God got me going this way tonight, but I know there's always a purpose. But he got me walking through this whole Moses situation so you can really look and see. He has to look in the face of his family who raised him, who gave him food, who gave him drink, who treated him like royalty. He was raised to be royalty. Now, can you imagine what the family felt like after they've given him all of this stuff? For him to branch out and then say, God told me to do something. I am. And see, the purpose of him saying that I am sent me is because Pharaoh needed to know that this is the God of all. Not the God of the Jews, not the God of Egypt, not the God of all these separate things. I am. I am everything. I am the God of all of you. And right now, the treatment that you are bestowing upon these people needs to end. Let them go. And Moses has to be the one to deliver that message. Ah, oh Ramandio Koso Ramandio Kosutu Shataman Soko Rabadias. Kishataman Soko Ramalia Kotubu Shatiamansi. Tikataman Soko Ramai Shataya. To have to look in the face and say, this must happen. And then here's the other part of it, and I'm walking through this real slow because he's ministering to all of us at the same time. But he's denied at first. God hardened the heart of Pharaoh. Now, listen, this is the great I am. He's on both sides. He's not on one side and not on the other side. And this is not what we were taught growing up. So I know this is hard for some of y'all to swallow. But he was not just the God of the Jews. He was the God of those who sat on these platforms. He's the God of all things. And so God hardened the heart of Pharaoh. So God now, after telling Moses to go, Moses has to be bold enough to declare this message, kind of like with Jonah and Nineveh. Send me on this assignment. I got to say these words. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. But for Jonah, of course, they repented. He was mad because they repented. But God sends us on these missions, on these journeys, on these paths, so that we can show up in the fullness of who we are. And sometimes showing up in the fullness of who you are seems like it's hell because you got the rejection. Moses was rejected. God, you told me to go. You told me what to tell him. And then his heart was hardened. Now, I don't think that at that moment while Moses was standing there before Pharaoh, that God whispered to Moses, hey, I'm about to harden his heart. No, I think that's just the story that we get in the scriptures to let us know what happened, because God is the God of all. So the same way that God told Moses to go is the same way that God allowed Pharaoh's heart to be hardened. And you're standing up in the face of that thing. God told you to do it, and you're standing up in the face of it, and you're saying, I declare this, and this is the liberty that people need to be to, and this is the Christ mind, and we need to be able to be in the Christ mind so that we can live in love, and love is actually the law, and all the other stuff we just use in our practice, and that's okay if that's what it looks like to you, but this is God, and He is all. He is no respecter of person. Blessings for Lauren. Blessings, Zion. He is no respecter of person. He don't love me more than he loves you. So Pharaoh's heart is hardened, and God did it. So for some of you right now, while you're searching for your purpose and your path, and you're thinking that the answer is no because you walked up to him and you said, this is what God told me to do, and you're thinking that that's not the answer because they denied it or they rejected it, God says today for you to rethink that. No, the heart just needed to be hardened this time. Now go back and do it again. And that's where we get a little bit leery. Like, God, I don't know. But you said you wanted more of me. You said you trusted me. You said you wanted to be. And you go back and it happens again. God help me today. It may feel like what God told you is not working. And it may be years on top of years and decades on top of decades. And in your mind, you like, okay, well, maybe I need to switch up something. Maybe something need to change. Maybe something need to shift. Maybe it need to be like this. Maybe it need to be like that. And God is saying, nope, stay the course. Because there's an appointed time. But this is how you know if you sold out spirit and truth, because then you go in and taking that process, and you got people looking at you like this is what it is. Your family members, whether it be your mama, your daddy, your cousins, whoever it is that told you that was a bad idea, looking at you saying, see, I told you that was going to fail. Woo! I told you that in the meantime, you should have been doing this. I told you that in the this is what you should be doing. And you're looking like, but do not be afraid of the face that's staring back at you. If you know that you know that you know destiny. If you know that you know that you know destiny, what your path is. If you know that you know that you know that that's the building, that's the school, this is the practice, this is the, if you know that you know that you know, then that's a faith move. Your faith will not be put to shame. But we got to get out of our own way and be okay if everybody doesn't agree. When Jesus was walking with his disciples, there was all these different personalities, but there was a portion where Jesus was telling them, like, this is what's about to happen. I'm about to go to this cross. I got to do this thing. And Peter's like, nah, you ain't doing that. That ain't finna happen. And it was the love of Peter that said it, like, you ain't finna go die. You ain't finna go get killed. Of course, that's the attachment. That's the love attachment. It's like, no, we don't want nothing to happen to you. That's not going to happen. And Jesus says to him, well, he looks back and he says to the spirit, the mindset of Peter, get thee behind me, Satan. Talking to the mindset, not talking to the individual, but talking to the mindset. Because in Peter's mind, he was saying something that was loving. In Peter's mind, he was saying something that he felt like would be beneficial for the Christ in Jesus. Peter's talking and he's saying what he's saying. And Jesus is like, no, that's the adversary talking. That's the spirit of the adversary talking through you that's trying to prevent me to going on to the purpose that was set out for me. And listen, can we be honest? If that was anybody that you loved and they told you that they had to die in order to do something, you would probably be the same way. Like, yeah, that ain't what I'm hearing. But he speaks to the spirit behind it, because even when people genuinely care and really love you and they may want something for you, you got to be fully convinced within yourself. It don't mean be harsh to people. It don't mean be mean to them. It don't mean cut everybody out your life. They can choose whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to go. But you maintain love. You maintain this walk. You maintain this spirit and truth relationship. And you allow the Holy Spirit, the spirit of truth, to lead you and guide you into all truth. Because obviously all truth has not been revealed yet. That's why we have no room to judge another person for their path, which way they're going. If you can come into agreement, cool. If you can't, it's okay too. But this is the prayer for clarity of your path. You want to learn how to be a love walker, and that's that. You want to focus on the message of Jesus, which was to love. Love others as I loved you. Love is the greatest commandment. Love does no ill to its neighbor. Thus it is the fulfillment of the law. There's faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. For God is love. Now they that worship me must do so in spirit and in truth. The qualities of spirit has love right there. It starts everything and it ends everything. And against it, it is no law. So it's okay. I don't know who this is for, but it's okay that you don't have no discrimination in you. You feel like you're supposed to discriminate because other people discriminate, and it's not in you to do. And you're trying to force yourself to hate what they like, what they hate. And then they keep telling you that you got to hate what God hates. And that's a whole narrative in and of itself. Because God created everything. He loves unconditional. So there is no hatred in that. Sorry. We create our narratives. We speak on God's behalf. Things that are really our own perspective. When love is the foundation and you spring off of that, you begin to govern yourself accordingly. All of a sudden, your heart begins to shift because you know that, hey, love does no ill to its neighbor. I have to love them as I love myself. So if it does no ill to its neighbor, then I must not do ill to me. Whatever I sow, I'm also going to reap. You begin to learn these things and you watch how you respond to other people, not just waiting for them to respond to you in a certain way. God set us free tonight. Shetaman socorre mandias. Shelamandio kosore mandio kosoto. Yaman socorre mandios. Shelamandio kosore mandio. You must be fully convinced within yourself. And then as you are convinced within yourself about that which God has called you for, that allowed you to do, don't cause nobody else to stumble with it. Don't cause nobody else to stumble with your liberties. See, this is where people think that you're being too secretive, or you trying to hide out, or you trying to hide yourself because you just don't want to be exposed or uncovered. No, there are some things that's just between me and God. There's some things that's just between you and God. And that which I'm supposed to give out to the world, yes, I'm supposed to cultivate my heart, my compassion, my love, living according to the Spirit and truth. I don't have any discrimination. And there may be things that try me, but you can't be called to a global, universal thing and have any prejudices. So if there are any there, God is going to cause you to face those things so that you can get it up and out of you. So that when you come into contact with any other portion of God, which is all things that exist, your actions are different. You're not looking at how to get back at people or mistreat people because they did it to you. You're not looking to do tit for tat. It's not an eye for an eye. You're literally believing only that which I sow, I shall also reap. So I choose to sow love that I also may reap love. If I choose to support others, give honor to others because of what they offer to the earth, it shall also happen for me. That what you do unto others, God will also do unto you. If that's your focus, things begin to shift and change. My soul remandiakate. Shela mansoko remandioso. Ana maso remandiokosa. I know the things that God told me to do. And can I be honest with y'all? After a couple of decades of doing the same thing, you like, God, well, a decade or so. Almost a decade. I don't know. Maybe I didn't hear you. And then he begins to send all these voices out of nowhere to remind you that, yeah, he said what he said. Just hold on tight. Be not moved. Be not moved. For there's an appointed time. When Joseph was in prison and he had to give a prophecy or interpret the dream, of the cupbearer and the baker. I don't know the amount of time it was between when he gave them those messages and when he was called out of that prison to interpret the dream for Pharaoh. He was supposed to interpret the dream for Pharaoh. Again, another indication that God is the God of all. Because he allowed Joseph to prophesy or to interpret the dream of the Pharaoh so that they can move this thing along to be able to feed many. And we only look at Joseph and his brothers, and we look at his brothers coming to get food, but we're talking about the entire nation. They had to come from all over. He wasn't just feeding Jacob and his sons, as much as that's how we read the story. But Joseph was put in a place where he can feed many. He said to his brothers when they finally revealed himself, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. I don't imagine he was thinking about that when he was sitting in the prison still, and he interpreted these dreams and he told them, remember me when you get out of here. But they didn't remember. Well, one of them died, but the other one didn't remember him right away. So he takes me back to that message all the time. There's an appointed time, Shalonda. But if you know that you know that you know that you know, do not deviate the course. But you got to believe it within yourself. You got to believe it with your whole heart. When he talked in the scriptures about, listen, it's going to turn mothers against daughters sometimes. It's going, shata, man, soko, rema, rakataman, sikio, rebokutu. And we yet still are to honor our parents. But when you have to leave some things behind or you have to deviate courses, I mean, Abraham was told to move away to a whole different place to make a life for himself. Leave your father. Make a life for yourself. Y'all, I really don't know who this is fully for. I know he ministering to me. I don't know about y'all, but you may have to leave and relocate. Doesn't mean you don't love them. It means that you're following the path that God has set out for you. I remember when I had, and this is when I really knew, like a long time ago, when that God had called me to a prophet to nations, not or globally, not just to a particular sect. When I had to give a prophecy to one of my nephews about the path that he would take, and if any of my Christian friends or family members were in within earshot, they probably would have rebuked me up and down the street. And this was before I even started doing official ministry, of course, because I've been a prophet my whole life. So I guess I've been doing this work for longer than 2 decades, then longer, as long as I can remember. But I remember Toko Rabat Destiny. I feel your whole entire spirit, daughter. Whew. But you ain't the only one on here right now. But I need you, Destiny, to hear me and hear me well. Though there may have to be a separation in physical distance, it doesn't mean that the forgiveness within does not still need to happen. The forgiveness work must happen. That's where your liberty comes from. And we must release other people from their debts owed to us, because we cannot ask God to always forgive us, to always be present for us, to always show up, because that which we sow, we shall also reap. So if you can't sow forgiveness, and this is not just for Destiny, this is for whoever's listening to me, if you cannot sow forgiveness, then you cannot expect forgiveness in return. It's the same as far as is sowing and giving it to other people. If you and he said the same thing to me. So even with my bills, I had to start. If I couldn't pay the whole medical bill, I had to start putting $5 here, $10 here. How you gonna need somebody else to pay your invoices? That you make no room to clear it. Mm. Oh, pasata amayoko. Ha manso remandia kotobai. Rakatia mansikio rodobokoto mansiki. Shelamandio sorma. Cletamansikio robokotua mandios. Kanama soreba. Let not unforgiveness keep you from the reward that God has for you. He cannot give you what you do not give first. And I need y'all to understand that the principle of this world, the principle of this entire universe, is to give first and then receive. So for those who need to give forgiveness, give it, then receive. Your life is miserable because you keep holding on to everything that has you bogged down. I think I was listening to an audio book by Joyce Meyer today, as I do my studies and as I prepare for this next work, literary work that I'm putting out. But of course, I'm always listening to something about love and learning more of what I don't already know too. You know what I mean? Like it's a growing process forever. But she said forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a decision that you make on how you're going to treat the people who hurt you. Whew. I said, Joyce. It ain't a feeling. It's, if you're waiting for that feeling, if you're waiting for something to be like, and it may happen one day, the more you renew your mind and you heal your heart. I expect it. I expect the liberty. I expect the freedom. I expect the joy that bubbles over. But that's because you're free. But forgiveness in and of itself is that decision. And Jesus is like, how many? I mean, they asking him like, how many times? 7 times? Nope, 70 times 7. That means constantly, over and over and over again. Forgiveness is a practice. In other words, how I treat you reflects what's in my heart about what it is that I choose to believe in spirit and in truth. In spirit and in truth, we are all one, whether we act out or not. So that the feeling of liberty and freedom and refreshing and all that stuff, it will come as we continue to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Because once you're transformed, then you're a whole new creature. So the joy and all that other stuff, it will overflow. You live in life and you live in it more abundantly. You walk in your path out, so you're connected where you need to be connected. But it's a decision. Because love does no ill to its neighbor. In other words, my forgiveness looks like me not talking about you, bashing you, gossiping about you, making you look bad in front of other people. My forgiveness looks like, hey, if you have a need and I have it, I fulfill it. And that is very difficult for many. And I'm not trying to tell you you're going to be able to do it tomorrow. But I am saying that if you choose this path of the love walk, if this is the path for you, then that's what God is calling you to right now. He's calling you to begin to forgive and to treat people the way you want to be treated, the way you would have wanted to be treated when you were in error, when you were acting out, when you allowed the pain that you're feeling inside to be venom to another person. Your response, your reaction to them. Mm, mm, mm. It comes with some trial and error. But you don't have to worry about trying to always get it right. It just simply means put it in your heart that forgiveness is a part of love. And I got to figure out how to get that done. If I want to be pleasing unto God, I got to be mindful of how I treat the other parts of him. I can't be so focused on how they treat me all the time. Now, I'm not saying that you should not ever address the thing. There are times when I have to address, like, look, I know I'm loving, I know I'm caring, I know I'm there for everybody, but treat me with respect. You got something going on, we can talk about it at some other point. We can try to figure it all out, but respect is due because you want it from me. But after that, we about to go get something to eat and we're going to chill out if you want to. I'm going to hug you, you're going to hug me, and we're going to get over it. I don't have the energy nor the space to fall back into a depression, to fall back into that place where I was living in the darkness because I'm going to be so bruised and broken by people's behaviors towards me. No, I need to, okay, I'm going to say it. Even at home, I have to say it sometimes, like, look, yeah, I love y'all. I'm willing to do whatever I can. I have no problem. I don't, if I got something, I spare no expense. If I say I love you, I'm willing to give. But I have to look you in your face sometimes and be assertive and say, look, y'all, everybody's saying they love me, but I'm going to need that in action, not just in word. It's okay for you to address some things, but how you feel in your heart about something, if you can't forgive people, if you cannot look them in their face and say, hey, you know what? Because if everything inside you just want them to catch on fire, and if they catch it on fire, I got a prayer. She has like this total disdain for a person. And, like I talk to everybody. I let them talk to me. I let them express their feelings. Try not to judge at all. Because I understand what it feels like. You know what I mean? To have at some point want to kick somebody through a window. You feel me? I had a couple of relationships like like kick you through a window right now. But you regroup. Try to anyway. But but even when you feel that way, it's not them that's responsible for that feeling. It's you that's responsible for it. They drove me to do it. But she said, and this thing she had for him, she was just like, so just did not like him. She just like, if I see him on fire, I'm not gonna spit on him at all. I ain't gonna offer nothing to them. I said, girl. She said, I'm being honest. I just gotta be honest. I said, all right, I hear your honesty, but we gonna work on that, okay? Because I understand how people can get to the point where they feel that way every now and again, depending on what the person is doing. And especially if they've done something so horrendous to you that it literally caused you physical pain, mental, emotional pain, and all that. I get it. And I know that the last thing you want to do is look at other people as people who have to work through their brokenness just like you trying to work through yours right now. But when we are worshiping God in spirit and in truth, then we're looking from those set of eyes and not from our flesh set of eyes. For they that worship God must do so in spirit and in truth. What's the truth? And I'll say this to people. If you in any way offended by me, then let's reason together. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that you're offended for the right reasons. And if there's something that I okay, if I oh shoot, I see myself in that. If that's how you feel, here's my apologies. But if you know the intent of a person's heart, you go to that place. That's what the spiritual part is. Let me look past these things that may have me feeling some type of way and look to the heart of the individual. Try the spirit by the spirit and see if it be of God. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Who knew how hard it could be to give forgiveness and still be in the presence of them? It's difficult, of course, but it's also difficult and it's also difficult maybe for somebody to be in your presence. Like, this is what I really want us to know. Like, we have been the offender as well. But I would never do nothing to a person to that extent. You don't know how much that impacted. See, when something happens to us, we know how it makes us feel. So to us, it can be the most horrible thing ever. It happens to another individual and it's not. And I'm talking about extreme things. Easier for them to brush it off, easier for them to forgive. So what you may have done to a person to offend them, you may have thought it was real minor. And I'm talking about to truly offend them. Not they just thought that you were offending them, but you did it. You know, you knew that you were just not in a good space and you were like waiting to give it to that person. Or in your brokenness, you did something to offend them as far as relationship are concerned. When we talk about adultery and some of the other things that they just kind of beat over the head about as a sin, the reason why adultery is an issue is because it offends one of the people in the relationship. If it don't offend the other people that's in the relationship, then you could probably call it polygamy. In some states, that's still legal. So, hey, do what you do, live how you live. But when you do something to another individual and it hurts another person, then that's, I share my testimony all the time about how I sent messages to people that I've offended in certain ways and said, look, like, it wasn't even about you. I didn't do it to intentionally to make you feel no type of way. I was trying to fill a void in my own world. And so I did this thing. I allowed this thing to happen because I was trying to fill a space in my own world. I wanted to feel like the chosen one. I wanted to feel like the one that was special. I wanted to feel like the one that he chose. And so this is what I did. I didn't, when I finally found out, because I didn't start off knowing certain information, but when I finally found out, I was so engrossed in the relationships that it was hard for me to let it go too, because it was feeding something that I needed in me. So this is the reason why God's grace is so sufficient, because he knows the root cause of why I did what I did. But that doesn't change the fact that it may have offended the other individual. So we stand to forgive. I'm like, y'all may think it's a joke and I'm tripping, but I'm trying my best to be friends with people that my exes are with. I don't have to be a part of their life every day, but I need them to know, like, I'm not here to threaten your relationship. And none of my exes get to threaten mine. We cool. We all right. If you need prayer from me, if there's something that we can do, I will ask my husband. If you got a need, whether you an ex-boyfriend or not, you're an ex-boyfriend, you're an ex-girlfriend, you're an ex-whoever, We ain't enemies. We ain't gotta be enemies because we exes. So I'm not gonna mistreat you, and because I'm not gonna mistreat you, whoever's in your life, they not gonna get mistreated either. Whatever you did to me, whatever I may have done to you, all forgiven. Let's move forward. But the wounds that we cause other people, they're just as relevant. As a matter of fact, it may seem extreme to them, like I said before. To say, for instance, they came out of a situation growing up, and the thing that you did, you might have thought, oh, well, I mean, they need to stop being so sensitive because all I said was, yeah, all you said was the very thing that the man that raped them said every night. Or the person who was bullying them, or the person who, mistreated them, you said exactly what they said. And they haven't been healed yet. So you did trigger them. You did hurt them. And you hurt them beyond a slap would have. They probably could have got slapped and felt different, but the words that you said, they affected them more. And so we may not fully understand what people are going through or why, and we're trying to figure out how to forgive everybody. Oh, because they did this to me and they made me do this and they felt, and we're trying to do that. And you have every right to feel what you feel when you feel it. But if you're gonna hold on to it, and yet you're walking in a certain practice, then you got to go back and evaluate, how is it that I'm willing to hold on to this thing, and I'm saying that I'm trying to follow Christ, the mind of Christ. I'm trying to follow the manner and the way of Jesus, Christ Joshua. He's saying, come and learn of me, because my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And what he's saying is, I don't carry none of this stuff with me. Yep, they out to get me, because what I'm teaching is just too much. They feel like I'm trying to lead the people astray. They feel like I'm a heretic. They feel like I'm blasphemous. They feel like I'm the son of a devil, whatever the case might be. And he had to stand up in the face of this. He had to stand up in the face of people trying him on purpose, trying to try him with questions and all that. This is the reason why he gave the response that he gave. Listen, love the Lord your God with all you got and love your neighbor as yourself. This sums up the laws and the prophets. Everything they ever said, everything they ever did, it was to follow this law. And that is a law of love. And if you start from that place, if that's what you're saying, now mind you, I'm talking to those of you who are here tonight. This is the path of love walking. We don't get it right every day, but we understand it's a journey of maturity. But you have to be able to be willing, which means you're going to look in the face of some things that seem hard as ever to forgive. How we got on forgiveness, y'all? And we supposed to be talking about the clarity of your path. Who is pulling on me? Who is pulling on me with this forgiveness thing? Jeez. Because you're still asking the questions within yourself. And so as you're asking the questions within yourself, God is he's responding. And I'm just the vessel. Hey, if there's anybody else that wants to sow or give, please do so now. I'm going to pray and prophesy over each seed. I'm grateful, absolutely grateful. You can still sow the $80 seed if you choose, or the 88 or something like that. We're talking about new beginnings. We're talking about abundance, prosperity, changes in your life that will lead to that. Some of you will be walking into a place where you're getting new knowledge so that you can get what you need on the other side of things within the scope of what God has called for you to do, or he is living out through you. So if you want to sow in that realm, that's awesome. But in a second, I'm going to pray and prophesy over those things. You're asking God, how do I forgive this? And he keeps giving the answer. Choose it. Choose forgiveness. But they should have, but they shouldn't have did this, and they shouldn't have said that, and they shouldn't have acted like that. I get it. But that's not going to solve your problem. That's not going to heal your heart. You can't make them pay for it. You can't make them pay for it. I mean, well, you could try, you could do some things, but that's just gonna make you just like the people who hurt you. Again, the people who hurt you, they had someone that probably did the same to them, and then it keeps going back from generations upon generations upon generations upon generations, and we will never find the original root. And we may think that it's the beginning story, but that wasn't the offense. Hurt people hurt people. Yeah. But when a hurt person decides that I cannot be like the ones that hurt me, then love begins to take on its own form. You begin to be a presence in this existence that changed things. Asoremankanta. Yerabasorema. Come on and take a deep breath for me. I need you to start practicing breathing and meditation and self-regulation. Sutai. Allow this second deep breath to be mindful of it. You are self-regulating. You are regulating your emotions, your whether it's anger, resentment, fear, shame, guilt, unforgiveness. You're regulating self. Deep breath in. You can't force a heart change. I don't know who this is for. You can't psych yourself out to walk in forgiveness. You just have to choose it as a part of your path. If your path ain't love walking and you only hear so you can catch glimpses of the message every now and again, maybe she'll prophesy and say something to me that makes sense. And that's why you hear amen. My gifts are to be used for whatever it is that God chooses. But if you choose the path and you're following the teachings because you want your life to be different, then hear me when I say that you cannot force your heart, but you can heal it so that there's no force necessary. Other than that, you're just wearing a mask and you're just pretending your heart is not in the forgiveness. You're just doing it as a form of fashion. That's kind of what they did in legalism. Legally, I'm supposed to forgive, but those are the same people that say, I'm going to forgive, but I'm never going to forgive. That means it's your intention to hold on to it. But if love holds no account of wrong, yeah, you got to choose whether you want this path, because it puts you in a place where you begin to grow. And with every step that you take towards growth, you're going to have to do some stuff that might be real difficult for you. And he's going to have you sit in it. And that's if you choose. You can go on about your business and go on about your life. Hold on to that stuff forever. Your body starts to feel the effect of it. Your mind, your mental, your emotions are feeling the effect of it. And you keep asking God for answers and freedom and deliverance and wholeness and all these different things, and it's not happening because that's that chain. Oh, Rabbi, get clear on your path, get clear, and trust yourself. This might not be the season for you, and I can't say nothing about it. We get to choose for ourselves life and death. That's why God don't have to do all this vengeance thing and all that. That might sound good in concept. Mm-mm. What we sow, we reap. He don't have to do nothing else. He set the law in motion. So if you want to be free, be free. Allow others to be free. Release them to be themselves. Forgive them. That don't mean, again, you got to be in the same vicinity all the time. But if they are hungry, will you feed them? If they have a burden, will you help them bear it without grudge? Because when we do things begrudgingly, we're not doing it by faith. Again, we're doing it by law, by legalism, by, you know what I mean? We're not doing it by faith. God doesn't even want us to do our purpose and live our purpose out spiritually or otherwise without faith. He don't want nothing from us begrudging. So just decide, get clear on what your path is and make a decision that this is what governs me. This is how I'm going to live out. And I know that means I'm going to have to go through some motions. I'm going to have to ask what that heart look like. But I want this mind to be in me, which was also in Yahshua. Why? Because that yoke is easy and that burden is light, and I want to live free, and I want to live happy, and I want to live whole. I want that abundant life that he spoke, because all things are at my disposal. And when my heart is operating on the right frequency, then I'm not going to do anything out of selfish, out of vainglory. I'm not going to, mansuku. Ha. I'm not going to live in vainglory. I don't need anybody to pump me up bigger than they do anybody else. Not when it comes to that. I just want God's will to be done in my life. And whatever comes of that, comes of that. Jesus didn't walk around trying to be famous. He ended up being famous because of the work that he was doing in the land. As a matter of fact, can I be honest with y'all? He wasn't the one that was doing the recording. He wasn't recording the incidents in his path. He was just living out his purpose. He just went and studied. But his fame grew because of people who witnessed what he done, and they went and shared it with another. It's why your gifts make room for you, because your gifts are shared with others, and the others get to brag about your gift. The others get to exalt you. The scriptures talk about it all the time. As a matter of fact, there's a whole scripture that says, "Let every man see to another man's wealth." So you get what they're offering, and then you do what you have to do. That's why testimonials and reviews and all that stuff, those things are cool. But that word of mouth gives the real experience. And this is what we do when we kind of do the Great Commission, in a sense. We're not trying to convert them to nothing, but we're trying to lead them to something that may work for their life. And if it doesn't work for their life, it's okay. Let's take this other deep breath in. You're going to hold it. You're going to sit in gratitude over the breath. And when you release it, only think about gratitude. Thank you for the breath. Thank you for the opportunity. Take that deep breath in. Simply declare, I am clear. I am clear. I am clear. Orema. Shelamandio koso. The solution to many of your problems is just this. Shetamaso rebai. Oremandio koso. Iramaso rebai. Speak to the heart of those who need to hear tonight. Gain clarity. Gain clarity. Gain clarity. Koramandio sotobo shata. Masoreba. Falon, I hear the Lord say to you that which you seek literally is in pursuing the mind that tells you or helps you to see which way that you need to go, what things you need to release. Sometimes we have pain so deep that it almost becomes such a part of us that to depart from it is more difficult. But when you seek the peace of God, the peace that surpasses all understanding, the contentment, it changes everything. The inner environment and the outer environment. We say, God, give me peace. God, give me peace. God, give me peace. And God is saying, I've already given it to you. It's at your disposal. It's always at your disposal. You just have to choose it. You just have to choose it. But Apostle, it's not that easy. I know. I spent a lot of years in the dark, depressed, sad, emotional. God, it doesn't seem to be working. And I've had scars and I still have scars. And I let God know, like, either if the scar remains, it's there to teach me or show me something. But if you clear it up, I'll be all right with that too. But everything that we do is our decision. It's our choice. Even if it's entertaining the negativity of another person, if we choose to entertain that negativity, it's a choice. The most difficult thing is to learn how to live your life free while at the same time trying to stay yielded or have some temperance, some self-control. It's doable. But the liberty is ours for the taking. The liberty is ours for the taking. And it is so. Father, I lift up each and every individual to you right now. Father, I lift up LaMonica and her seed to you. I pray that answers that she's needed for a long time, she received to get some of those tonight. And I pray that the clarity just continues to unfold. And may the anxiety and fear of making certain decisions, may it vanish as she rests in you and the truth. I pray increase and overflow. Increase and overflow in peace and in finances. May she always feel surrounded by love. And I declare clarity of her path to be her portion. And I lift up Destiny to you. I lift up her seed. And though you've already spoken to her heart tonight, I just want to pray that her seed is multiplied, increased, that there is no worries in her house. And it is so. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Every time you put one love, I think about that Falon. My son actually just came in here earlier and brought me a picture that he drew of Bob Marley. It was really dope. And I started singing it earlier. Here you are speaking about one love. I would call that confirmation for my life, that my message is not falling on deaf ears, and that this path that God has me on to just pour it all out, to pour it all out. And those who will, let them come. One love. It's only one. God is all. God is one. God is love. Ishataya masora mandios. Kenamasidia bokorema. In the times to come, and we're coming close to the end of this 100 days. After that, I will continue in whatever manner that God gives me to go for. But during this time, sometimes you will jump on listening and you will hear people from all different backgrounds, faith, religions, all talking about love. Because in this space, that's what we talk about. Whatever a person's practice is, it may not be your practice. We're not here to judge somebody else's way of understanding God, because that's like telling other people to judge our way of doing it. That what you don't want done to you, do not do to another individual. But when we're talking about love in this space, that one love is going to come up every time. God is but one, and we're all that manifested. So our hearts have to come into alignment. We want God to heal this land. We talk about how wayward everything is, and oh, they need God, they need God, they need God, they need God, which is love. And He loves through us. So when those things begin to happen, and people are here, and if you choose to come and invite others, then by all means do so. I do not want to cause anybody to stumble. So if something feels too uncomfortable for you, make sure that you're ready to just simply say, this is not, I can take the meat and leave the bones. But interestingly enough, most of us may judge another person's path and we don't even know what ours is. People who are solid in their path don't have a reason to fight, fuss, or argue. They don't have a proof point. And so we want you to begin to hear the messages that may help you to heal your life, because the law is love. The law is love. Oh, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Joshua. Look, it was only a few people on here anyway. Just like that, me saying that, making that statement, it just lost 2 people. I get it. I get it. I get it. And it's all good. And it's all good. I am actually literally finally able to say those things over these past few, probably a year or so, or, I'm still working. We're still working on it. But right now I'm like, God, we doing this, right? So we doing this. If you have not already purchased your copy of What If God Is All of Us, considering the Love Walk approach to social justice and global healing, please head over to Amazon and do grab that. Just look up Shalonda Treasure Williams Leonard and you can see all of the books. Go and grab you one. I also encourage you, if you have not already, to download the ebook that is on at the same link. Go to the shop, and it is called The Greatest Temptation, right? Um, Abandoning Love. That's the greatest temptation. We want to look at, of course, what everybody's done, how they've done it, and we don't want to, we can't release things. And I get it. Trauma is hard. But to abandon love, it's the greatest temptation, because love is the greatest commandment. So we're gonna work on that. But go ahead and grab that. It's a 7-day devotional. It just kind of walks you through for 7 days. Right now, we are also in the midst of 21 days of forgiveness. And so, if you sow with us tonight, give your love offering or your intentional seed, then you will be a part of that, which means that you'll get the emails every day as we continue. I think today we're on day 9. A couple of days ago, I did a day 7.5 where people could kind of go back through week 1 and meditate on the things that they've gained. So today we're on day 9. So feel free. Uh, for all supporters, whether monthly supporters or one-time donations or whatever, you have access to that. So dive into the pool. Dive into the pool. Well, amen, Falon. All right. I love y'all so much just because I can. I pray manifold blessings. I pray that all things concerning you are well. I pray that you're able to get on this path of yours and not feel as if you are alone. You are not alone. It will feel like that. It's hard. I told my children, it's very hard to feel that feeling of loneliness when you're surrounded by people because you're trying to do what God is saying, and it's like, man, this is a lonely place. But this is kind of, it should be expected, right? When you understand what Jesus was speaking about, it's just that thing doesn't mean that you're by yourself. You're not by yourself. So be encouraged, sleep well, go and get your love offering in the ground, get your seed in the ground, and I'll respond to you in the inbox there if there's a message. But at least come and be a part of our 21 days of forgiveness. All right. And when you give, if you have not ever before, when you give on that site, then you will have access, the unlocking of the things that I'm posting for about 30 days, I believe. So put yourself in that space. All right. Love y'all so much. Many blessings. And I'll talk to you all soon. Destiny, hit my inbox, please.